Hello, everyone. I hope that you can see me and hear me well. Thank you for joining us this lovely evening. My name is Marta, and I work for a data art company, and I will be your host and moderator during the whole evening. Welcome to our first HR talk. We are super excited to manage to organize this webinar. We hope that you are going to enjoy it. It will bring some added value to your everyday job and some personal development. Before we start, I have one small alert. Please do not hesitate to ask questions in the YouTube chat. And after each session, I will read it to our fellow speakers. So we have two speakers today, Hanna and Tatiana, both working for a data art company, but they will cover the topics in regards of their own personal experiences, and they will also show some interesting cases. So let's not prolong this introduction. We will start with Hanna. Hanna, can you hear us? Everything is
Yeah.
okay?
Hello, good
Super.
evening.
So please, the virtual space is yours now.
Thanks. Good evening to all. I will start sharing my screen with the presentation. Okay. And good evening once again. As Marta told, my name is Hania. I'm also working in data art for like 1.5 years, but generally I'm for 7 years in IT recruitment. I lived in 4 countries. This probably will share my experience a little bit about the intercultural communications and actually about this experience of living abroad. I do have the master degree in international labor law. To be honest, it's nothing to be proud about and something to be proud about. It is said that I'm the cutest biker on the track. Hope so. So it's all I believe about my career and also about my hobby. Today I'd like to talk to you about a few topics. First of all, why your experience matters. Then why my experience matters as well. So I will share the recruitment patterns we use in data art, especially here in Data Art Poland. Also, some thoughts about how candidates change in 2020, and in the end, some info about high context and low context cultures. Yet, now I'd like you to think about spring. Just imagine how good it is. Imagine it in a full, picture that you can. And let me ask you, which spring did you imagine? The season, the framework, or probably the engine part? Like, to be honest, after like a few weeks I spent in my garage, I definitely didn't think about the season. And I believe that's a good example of how different we may accept the reality, which actually doesn't make us right or wrong. It's just a different point of view. So even we speak the same language, even we are from the same culture, from the same city sometimes, even from the same family, we may have the completely different point of view because we all think, we all accept the reality within our categorizing. Yeah, we do have some categories: what is good, what is bad, just general categories of everything. And it doesn't make us right or wrong. Yet those categories is kind of stereotypes. We tend to think that stereotypes is something bad. But basically, are stereotypes always bad? Here you can see the advertisement of, I don't know, some sauce that it's creepy for us, I understand, but it was quite successful like 17 years ago. Like, it's on the top, obviously. Below, it's a picture like the modern one, showing how now it's funny for us, but was this ad successful? Yes, it was. Is it a stereotype? Yes, it is. So basically, the stereotypes is only the process of simplifying something, the way to think less. It may sound a bit, creepy, think less, but we don't have the capacity to think more about each tiny case we are dealing in our daily routine. And usually stereotypes are statistically right. So it depends on the purpose we want to achieve, on the goal. Sometimes it's about like generalization. Sometimes it's about something very unique, and something about individualization. Sometimes we also can think that the set of the stereotypes, the limitation of our background, makes us not very important, not very valid. I don't know about you. To be honest, I used to have such a feeling. I'm trying to fight it because it's something bad. It's actually the imposter syndrome. I don't know how many of you guys are used to suffer from it or suffering from it. I believe it's majority of us, especially in IT, especially in the recruitment, because recruitment is something about connecting with many people that are better than us in their specialities, in their professions, but still we are dealing with each of them, and have to be on the same wave. This illustration of the imposter syndrome shows the reality comparing to our imagination. So sometimes we really don't know something our colleagues knows. Sometimes we are better or worse than our team members, but it's never like that someone is better in everything. Yet, even we accept it like that. I was dealing with imposter syndrome for quite a long time. To be honest, the psychotherapy helped me. And during this process, I found there are articles by Dan Abramov. Dan Abramov is the co-author of Redux. It's actually quite famous in the programming world. And Dan has a blog. Each year, he is writing an article that is called Things That I Don't Know as for 2020, 2021, etc. And I really like that guy because despite his like enormous experience and input in development, generally like in programming, he's very easy to show that he doesn't know everything. No one knows everything, and it's okay. And even your favorite developers, HRs, recruiters, managers, whatever, may not know many things that you know. And even if you don't know something, that doesn't make your experience, invalid, less valuable. It's basically all about your self-confidence and also about just-in-time learning. So you don't need to know everything about each culture you will cooperate with if we are talking about the intercultural cooperation, but you have to be able to learn just in time. And basically, this is the competence that business is ready to pay for. Okay, so what about my experience? On the daily basis, I'm recruiting. I'm relocating colleagues. I'm staffing distributed teams. And I'm also involved in recruitment of distributed remote international teams. Basically, DataArt used to be known for hiring people working on site. However, clearly it is changed. And each month we are working more and more with remote employees. This, on the next slide here, you can see the diagram I wrote about our recruitment process. I'm not that good in writing diagrams, so it doesn't look that perfect, yet I believe it's quite visible how we built the process. So dealing with people actually all over Europe, majority of them are still in Poland, Ukraine, Russia, but more and more we have candidates from abroad. The first step is always an email with the basic questions. I usually do not start the process with a phone call unless it is needed, unless the candidate writes me that he or she doesn't understand something, needs advices, doesn't know how to answer the questions. And why usually I do so? Because first of all, clearly it's good to have everything written, everything on the email. The other thing, it's to give him or her the space to think, to answer the questions without thinking how I will judge it. And I actually face it. It's a good way. It's better than to start with a call. Clearly, sometimes we need to sell the company, let's say. I know we are not Google, and sometimes we have to motivate the candidate to work here. But if someone is already interested, if have already applied, it's better to deal with already motivated candidates. So the next step is English assessment. Each candidate passed the English test to be hired in DataArt. The next step is general technical interview, and it's something that is very universal. We can invite the technical experts from any location, so it could be the candidate from Poland or Bulgaria, and it could be an expert from Russia or Argentina or any country from Latin America. We do have many employees, remote employees there, because the set of questions is just standard, and also the matrix to assess a candidate is standard for each location, as well as the English assessment. So after that step, here we have the full picture of the candidate that applied, about his or her technical and, let's say, soft skills as far as it's possible to assess them during the HR interview. And here we can already hire that person on the bench if we see many opportunities or not. If it's not the mainstream technology of it's the candidate that requires probably some unique set of technical stack that is not the mainstream for us. In that case, we try to make the final offer only in case the client approves. And the interesting step we have after the project interview. So if we want to, let's say, sell the candidate to the client, we try to do our best to make it. We help the candidates to get prepared for the interview. It could be the technical assistance, but in most cases, it's just few coaching sessions where we support the candidates with some information, how you can deal with a client, let's say from the United Kingdom, if he or she have never been working with someone from the UK. And after the client approves, we can make the final offer, and also we can make the project assignment. And when it comes to the candidates that got the badge offer, it's the same process, just after the offer, after like, let's say after they are already our employees. But what changed during like last year? We got more and more not only international employees but remote employees, and it's something like it was something quite unclear for our managers that used to work with on-site employees. Why? Because people from like it opens many markets, and more markets, more unknown cultures. Also, remote candidates are not, like, let's say, that interested in integration because they live in their like environment, and they are focused on just do my job remotely, and like it's a bit other type of the candidate that we used to work with. And clearly, when the person doesn't plan to relocate, he or she wants to stay in his environment, like he or she has much stronger connection to the local culture. He or she will probably need to celebrate like the local fests, requires also their like understanding of the local life, everyday life of that country he or she is coming from. And also some preparation for the meetings, because when we started to cooperate with candidates from different markets, with the candidates that intend to work remote only, I face that it still requires some time to research. But let us be respectful. Those cultural patterns, they were built during ages, and yeah, we should explain to the managers that he or she has to spend those at least 15 minutes to read how to deal with a person from, for example, even from Bulgaria. When our managers started to process more Bulgarian candidates, we faced some cases that are not common for candidates from Bulgaria, but were obvious for us, but was completely unknown for them. Next question that appears in this international and remote is international negotiations. Okay, first of all, it requires time to research, not to offer some, let's say, bad conditions or too good conditions, just something that is on the market. But also it requires some knowledge about how people negotiate, if they negotiate the salary, and how do they discuss the salary in their country you would like to cooperate with. There's when I was working with some candidates, for example, from Azerbaijan, it was completely like different world of negotiation. It was very hard to understand, like, if the number he or she tells me is like the minimum or the maximum. And it required some time to not only for research, rather to communicate with people from that country to understand the way of thinking. But it's definitely worse. The other thing that is also important, try to understand if their employees, like the candidates you are dealing with, they forced to be remote because of, like, we know all because of what, or it's just someone who enjoys working remotely. Like if it's the first case, such candidate, such colleague, such employee definitely will need some extra support, and at least it will require some, attention to understand his or her needs. Here I face those needs are common for any countries dealing with kids at home, but they also may differ, and I believe here the good way as always is just to ask. But before you start working with candidates in other location, be sure that your language skills are enough, because before you think that you cannot find, the common language, be sure that you'll find like literally the common language with that person. But of course, it's not only about someone like if you are a recruiter, if you are a manager, also on the other side, if you are the developer, the I don't know, manager that is looking for the candidate, I mean, be sure that your language skills are enough to express not only the basic information, but also something about your feelings and something more not so factical, And about the native languages. This here in DataArt, we are multilingual. Clearly, we use English on a daily basis. But of course, even like in our company existing many teams that are made only, for example, from Polish guys or only from Russian guys, and they are speaking like Polish or Russian inside the team. And I understand that it sometimes requires more attention. It's not a good idea to put the English speaker in the team of 10 Russian speakers. Like, even if you don't have any other opportunity, I believe that the best solution here is to mix the teams, just not to make one or two persons in the team be a foreign speaker. And also the other advice I got once, and I think it's a good one. If you have to discuss, like if you are a manager, or also if you are a HR manager and you have to discuss something with the candidate, with your employee, maybe it worth to delegate it to the someone, if you have such a possibility, to someone local. Even though your language skills are awesome, it doesn't mean that like your interlocutor will be as awesome as you are. And also, when we are speaking the not native language, we leave some part of our personality in the native language. So maybe it could be the good issue. And other thing about not only the language, but also the background is humor. Humor is super important to feel good in the team. Humor, as for me, it's something I do not imagine my cooperation with colleagues. But always remember that it is like it depends on your purpose. If you want to feel good in a team, if you want to be relaxed on your doing your daily routine, yeah, I believe it's almost impossible to implement that with the team members that completely do not share your sense of humor. At the same time, if it's a like short-term project, or if your purpose are completely different, you just have to focus on the goal. Try to understand if there is any space for humor at all, if it is useful, and if it is if it will be understood on the other side. I was in such situation when my sense of humor was the like my enemy when I was working in a big corporation in Poland, and it like seemed to me that all my team members are young young guys, like ladies or guys, and with the same values, humor, and so on. And I didn't speak Polish at the time very well, and I didn't understand why do we have the day off because of some religion fast. It was the Corpus Christi or something like that, and I it's basically translated as a like God's body to Russian, and I asked like, whose body, excuse me? After that, it was quite hard to find a common language with someone whom I heard. With it was not a joke. I actually didn't understand the meaning, but I understood how I failed, and I had a hard time after that. The other part, let's say, of humor is sarcasm and the passive aggressive. Let me face it, we may be the source of it sometimes. And I think that there is completely no space for being passive aggressive in international communication, because you never know how it will be understood on the other side because of this cultural difference, because of this basically language difference. And sometimes you can be, the victim of the passive aggressive. I will tell you words. How do I deal with it? First of all, do not pretend that you don't understand that. Like, I believe that's a bad way, just to ignore if you feel uncomfortable. Yet try to understand and double check if it's not just a part of the culture, if it's not just the way people talk to each other every day, and it's okay for them. I used to work in a company dealing only with the UK clients. And in the beginning of that cooperation, it was hard for me to understand that my previous experience dealing with customers from the United States is just completely useless. And the way, despite they use the same language, the way they express the real feeling is completely different. And sometimes when we already know those aspects, we may pretend we don't we understand it the way we want to understand. That's a bad way because that's something we always will lose in the end. Okay, how to deal with it? So I guess that the best way is always give the space for someone else to speak. And when that person will have that space, probably you will see that you were thinking in them like your categories, using your stereotypes, and you are wrong. Probably you will understand that you're right, but that's also the result. Given the space to speak to someone else, that's always good. But when you are sure that you are facing this passive aggressive, or someone tries to provoke you to tell some excuses or something like that. This advice I got from psychologists as well. I just do that. It helps, to be honest, it helps me in my professional life, in my private life. When you have the conflict, you have, the conflict of interest or the real conflict, or you just dealing with someone that is difficult for you to deal with, try to focus on the question and answer all or only the question. Like here is on this picture is an example of the probably the boss and the employee. Like if, for example, your manager asks you, why are you late? It literally means, why are you late? Like, I overslept. That's an answer. It doesn't mean that you have to explain that the last night you invited your, I don't know, parents or grandparents and or friends or whatever. You had the party. All this text, it's excuses, and your interlocutor didn't ask for them. If he or she is interested in it, he or she will ask that question, but why? And then you can, of course, continue, but doesn't mean it doesn't mean you need to do that. And you can, of course, use it in not only dealing with someone that is like higher than you are in management, but also just with everyone. Okay, so when it comes to the high context and low context cultures, something that I promised to discuss in the beginning, that are something very different and very common in east and west parts of the world. Like I guess this is a good slide explaining the difference about east and west. I believe that's mostly about expressing your opinion, about sense of like your ego, about sense how valuable you are for yourself, and of course about dealing with problems. There's for the low context cultures, priority is fact, and for high context cultures, priority is harmony. To describe it in few words, like low context cultures are result oriented and high context cultures are process oriented. There could be, it's not only about the countries and the patterns used in the countries, it's also about like individuals and also about professions. I really like that slide, that picture. I mean, like I used to think that probably as many of us in the beginning of their career, that it's very important to be result oriented, that something that is important and is what you've done, and something that no one cares is what you have been doing, because it's just doesn't matter. But the balance is the best way. Try not to be the flower smelling champion and the champion of everything, because it's a way to nowhere. When it comes to the countries, so, it's my thoughts that Polish and Russian countries cultures are on the different level of like context. I heard different opinions here. Like after almost 6 years in Poland, as for me, Russian, also Ukrainian culture is much more high, not much more, but more high context than Polish working culture. And about professions, so clearly human resources is about high context, is about dealing with people, is about nuances, is about feelings. Yet being HR in IT, we are dealing with engineers, we are dealing with people very technical, fact-oriented. And it means that we should try to keep the communication simple. Something that I've learned in the university is how to write the absolutely useless, meaningless, but very long text. And something that I learned in the recruitment, that no one will pay attention to your message if it's not clear straight away in 7 seconds. I don't know why I spent so much money and time for that university, but okay. And about simplifying. To complicate is easy, to simplify is difficult. It doesn't matter which profession you have, you are getting your money to about for simplifying the difficult stuff. And if you can not explain it simply, it just means that you don't understand it well enough. I believe that Einstein told that. I totally agree with him in that case. It's very obvious, when you're recruiting very young employees, very like beginners, they try to write the CVs in a very complicated way. They try to answer the questions in quite complicated way, especially if they are like they're junior developers, engineers, and you are working in HR. And when you're dealing with someone quite experienced, they usually are they usually have the title like software engineer, not guru, not I don't know, ninja or whatever. And the more experienced candidates are, usually the more simple communication they have. Yeah, basically that's it that I prepared for you. This is DataArt Doc that was traveling with me, that is traveling with me to any location. If you have any questions, I will be super glad to answer them because, I will feel valuable and useful. And this is something we all need in these hard times. So
Thank you very much, Hania. I
yeah.
think recruiting globally is not easy job, and you need to consider a lot of different aspects regarding cultural differences. So actually, there are a few questions for you. So first, can you suggest any additional books, blogs, etc., about cross-cultural recruitment and cross-cultural negotiations?
So of course I can suggest Jan Tagze, their Full Stock Recruiter. I like this book. Also, there is a short book with the name Web Development for Not Technical Guys. It's not about the cross-cultural cooperation, but basically it's about business needs that are quite universal. And when it comes to the cross-cultural cooperation, I would rather advise focus on their something psychological literature, not the technical.
Okay, super. Thank you very much. And one more thing, you've talked about salary negotiations. And if there is a question, if I would like to work with candidates in other locations, is there any tip where I can read about culture on the specific markets?
So, of course, it depends on the market you want to work with. If it is a Russian-speaking markets, there are like really lots of information. I will be glad to share the links if it's possible to do it on like the comments on YouTube. When it comes to cooperating with non-Russian speaking with the European cultures, I think that's the best way is to ask someone who has experience in it. So basically, it's not about reading, but about feeling.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Hanna, once again.
Thank you.
If you can stay with us, because that will be really great.
Sure.
Now it is time for another speaker. So Tatiana, are you with us? Can you hear us if everything's okay?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm here.
Cool.
Can
We
you
hear
hear
you
me?
well. Yes, we hear you well. Okay, great. So Tatiana, now the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Marta. Thank you very much, Hania, for an amazing presentation. Greetings from Sofia, Bulgaria. And now it's my turn, and I will tell you about the successful adaptation of relocated employees. I also work for DataArt. And before we start, I would love to share a few words about myself and why I'm here speaking about relocation. Before I joined the IT sector as DataArt, so I've worked in the FMCG sector more than 10 years in different departments like sales, finance, and HR. And during my last role, I have dealing with relocation. And in 2016, I've moved to Sofia, Bulgaria. Combine this relocation with baby project, and after maternity leave, I started in IT sector, and currently I'm also dealing with relocations. So during this webinar, I'll show you my own experience as well. I have a certification in global remuneration professional and a master degree in international economics. I also have two relocations. The first one was from my home city, Kharkiv, to the capital of Ukraine, Kiev. And second from Sofia, from Kiev to Sofia. And I believe that this is not the last relocation. Well, and the agenda for today, I'll tell you the intro to the topic, and then we will discuss the 5 stages of adaptation in a new location. Then we will show you the practical advice to HRs, useful life hacks, and after there will be a Q&A session. So please feel free to write your questions in the chat, and I'll answer them after with great pleasure. Well, the relocation is always stressful for employees since it implies great changes in their professional and personal life. And according to psychological studies, the level of stress from immigration reaches a maximum of 100 points. For example, it's like the divorce or the death of loved ones. That's why the sooner your employees will adapt to the new location, the sooner the company will receive the benefit from it. And today we will focus on useful life hacks, how to do it, and what to do in order to make the post-relocation adaptation process smooth and effective. Before the practical advice, I would like to discuss with you the 5 stages of adaptation in a foreign country. These stages were invented by a Canadian anthropologist 50 years ago, and the first one is honeymoon phase. During this phase, their employees are enthusiastic, high spirits, high hopes. It's really a great stage of adaptation, and lasts from 1 week up to 3-4 months on average. Then the second stage is rejection phase. Here a person realizes that he or she will have to develop new everyday habits, learn to navigate in a transport system, so prove qualifications, etc., etc. And during this phase, it is great if you can support your employees. Just offer a cup of coffee or online call during the pandemic situation. Ask questions, just support your employee, and you they will be really grateful. In my current job, I'm dealing mostly with Ukrainians and Russians, relocated employees, and they usually ask me a lot of questions like where to buy cottage cheese or pelmeni, etc. And now I know a lot of shops where to buy such products. The next stage is orientation phase. On this stage, the employee feel a strong sense of orientation. The newcomer seeks to communicate more with compatriots, and some people decide to return to their home city. During this stage, it is also important to support the employees. But it may happen that someone will decide to return back. The next phase is adaptation or adjustment. Here, depression is slowly given way to optimism, sense of confidence, and satisfaction. And really, the person feels more adapted and integrated into the life of society. Well, the last phase is active phase. During this phase, the person no longer reacts negatively or positively because they are adapting to the new culture. And the person begins to understand and appreciate local traditions and feel more comfortable interacting with local residents. The whole process usually takes 2 years on average. And according to my practice, it is so. For example, my first year in Bulgaria was really rather difficult. I missed a lot my relatives and friends and used to visit Ukraine or they visited Sofia every 3 months. And what I can observe from the relocated employees here, also the first year is rather complicated, but if they successfully finish this year and stay with you, so most probably they will stay for a longer period. Here, I would like to show you the picture of Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. Kiev is a rather big city, and the rhythm of life here is very fast. Comparing to Sofia, the Sofia is completely different experience. However, relocation to different countries is definitely more complicated than relocation to different city in your home country. Despite Sofia is the capital, the life here is cozy and more calm. So I like it very much. And let's speak about the practical advice to HRs. So imagine that you receive their request for the relocation. And what should you do? It is necessary to make an introductory call with a potential candidate, ask questions, and start gathering information in advance. And, it is really important that you will check all possible questions and find all possible difficulties at the beginning. Because in some cases, it is ok to cancel the relocation if the process seems to be too complicated. You need to check all necessary documents with legal department. For example, in Bulgaria, when the person applies to the blue card to work permit, it is necessary to have a diploma of higher education. And if the person didn't have, so it might be a problem. Well, you also need to check the remuneration package and pay attention to the difference in taxes. For example, in Ukraine, income tax is 5%. In Bulgaria, it is 10%, plus around 12 social taxes, which is paid by employee, and around 18, which is paid by employer. In Poland, this the system of taxes is much more complicated and depends on their income. So it is important to check both net and gross because I have a case on my practice that we offer their attractive compensation for their employee, but then realizes that his net compensation will be lower. Of course, we reacted immediately, but it is really important to check. The next practical advice is that the first relocation is the most difficult. And to understood if your employee is relocated for the first time, you need to pay more attention to this case. If this is your first relocation, you need to ask help from the agencies or from more experienced employees in your company, and make maximum effort to adapt the first few relocated employees. If you will do it effective, then those employees will help you in adaptation for newcomers. If talking about useful life hacks, how to make the process of the post-adaptation process more successfully, you can create a chat where newly relocated employees can ask questions and get an answer. Then you can create a wiki with frequently asked questions. You know that employees usually ask the same questions: how to rent an apartment, how to register a car, how to enroll children to the kindergartens, etc. And this will save a lot of time, both for you and for the employees. The next life hack is a set of reference information and proven contacts. In foreign country, people usually are open to advice. A dentist with proven record, a plumber, a lawyer, a clinic where to give birth. It is great if you will have some contacts and will share with your employees. Also, you can research on local resources, the information, and help families create new routines and hobbies, and advice on language courses. I believe that in every country there are such like free courses for the English, for the languages, and in Bulgarian we have such, and the employees like it a lot. Their next life hack is arrange an event for families and introduce family members and children to each other. During the pandemic situation, you can make an online event, and families will maybe find some friends or a common interest, and it is also great. Invite the spouses of the relocated employees for coffee and offer help in providing information about the tradition, ask questions. It also could be online call. Believe me that they will not bother you every day, but they will feel like the company takes care. If there is no relocation specialist in your company, you can hire an agency that will help you, at least how to build the relocation process and policy. It is important, of course. Build connections and support single employees and families with establishing a network of friends, connections through special interest groups and activities. Nowadays, there are a lot of groups in social network. For example, in Bulgaria, we have a great community of Ukrainians. And before the pandemic, we have celebrated a local like Ukrainian holidays together, like St. Mykolai's Day. And we have a kids club where children can speak Ukrainian and play games. So it is good to know such groups. There is also a great community of Russian speaking in Bulgaria, and the groups on Facebook, and there are a lot of like mommies in Sofia, and a great group of foreigners in Sofia. So this helps a lot. The next thing I would like to share, it's the life hack, enroll employees to cross-cultural trainings. The mentality is different in different countries, and something which is okay in one country is not okay in another. That's why it is really necessary to know about this. And at last but not the least is mental health. Especially in terms of pandemic, it is crucial to check how your relocated employees are feeling. In DataArt, in addition to frequent talks with HR representatives, we have DataArt helpline, where everyone can seek help and be redirected for professional psychological help. And a little bit more tips you can give to your employees. Learn and practice the language. Look for companions in language clubs and on the internet. Remember your dreams. They make you stronger in any situation. Read about the social and the legal system of the country and learn more about local customs and traditions. Of course, before you will relocate to a new location. Do not hesitate to seek help from a psychologist. Make a list of activities you used to do and the things that made you happy at home. Try to find alternatives and remember that you can find a cozy bakery or beautiful park anywhere in the world. So my presentation is coming to an end, and I would like to say that the end of one path is always the beginning of another, and doesn't matter in what location you are. Thank you very much for your attention, and now it's time for questions.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Actually, we have a few questions for you. So first one, how do you approach situations when employees were not happy after the location?
Well, of course, you shouldn't expect that everyone will be happy after location, and there are situations when someone decides to return back. Usually, I have a meeting with the employee, ask questions, and act according to the situation.
Okay, thank you. We have another one. What was the most difficult relocation case in your practice?
Oh, thank you. Interesting question. It was the relocation of a family with several kids and dogs, and the luggage was stopped on the border, and it was really difficult, but we managed that, and so the family stayed with us.
Super. There are a few more. Could you name the most common reason why colleagues could ask for relocation in the previous location? So what is the reason?
In the previous location?
I think our audience mean that what is the reason why people want to relocate, basically, in your opinion?
Well, so there are a lot of reasons. And so usually this is that people would like to change their life, to see in other countries, or it might be a great opportunity, job opportunity. So I think, and during my practice, this is the most relevant reasons.
Okay, and in your practice, do you have a kind of a quick survey for relocants to understand, is it a right time to prevent a new relocation to previous relocation? Do you have something like this or not really?
Maybe not really. Usually it's case by case.
Okay, understand. And last one, do you have in DataArt a special internal course for colleagues who would like to relocate where you explain all legal and taxes questions?
We don't have like such where we describe all legal aspects, but we have several courses like when we told about the relocation, how it might be, and we have their description for each location. For example, if you want to relocate from Ukraine to Bulgaria, what you should do, approximately the cost of living here, and what you need to do if you would like to relocate. The same as for Poland and for other locations.
Okay, and to be more precise regarding the previous question, actually, where our audience asked about the quick survey, I think they really meant in DataArt, do you prevent somehow to move back to the last place? Like for newly relocated people, do you have some prevention, I don't know, kind of course or communication to move back to another place? I mean, to the last place.
I think that we have the several internal courses about the relocation, and usually with every candidate we have a discussion and explain all their pluses, minuses, and which the employees should expect.
And did you have in your professional experience, did you have such a kind of events, like, I mean, cases when people wanted to move back to their previous location? And how, if yes, how did you manage it?
Yes, of course, I had a few cases, and in some cases you can do nothing, just let your employee to go back, and in some cases you can prevent it, but you know that there are different reasons why employees would like to come back, and not every reason is connecting with the current location. For example, I have several employees who returned back because of their personal circumstances, like not connected with a new location. So they say that it is great and they would like to stay, but they have some reasons why they can't do it.
So basically, you would like to highlight that people usually do not go back into their previous locations because they don't like their current locations, but from personal reasons.
It depends, of course. So there are reasons when people don't like their current location. But according to my experience, the most cases were because their people has their personal circumstances.
Okay, great. Fair enough. Thank you very much, Tatiana. Super rich presentation with a lot of useful knowledge. And I think the audience will agree with me. Okay, great. Thank you very much, ladies, once again for your presentations. I hope our audience enjoyed them as I did. I have a request actually to the audience. Please do not forget to fill in the questionnaire. You may find it in the chat and below the video. And please follow us on social media and check our next events. So thank you. Thank you very much for being with us and see you next time.